everyone, this is Angela Trusty, the conservation agent for the city of Leominster. It is 6:01 p.m. and I'm just going to do a roll call for our commissioners. Our chairwoman, Amanda Lansing, are you on the call?
Here.
Elizabeth Ricci-Blair, are you on the call?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Jeffrey Goyne, are you on the call? All right, we'll try again. Nathan Fontaine, are you on the call?
Here.
We'll do it one more time. Jeffrey, are you here?
I am here.
Perfect. All right, so we have 4 commission members present for this meeting. I do want to make an announcement before the meeting gets started. After the last meeting, our vice chair, Samuel Gallagher, did resign from the commission. I wanted to thank him, for all the time he gave and all the work he gave to the commission. I really appreciate him stepping up and being a part of the community, and he will be missed. I also like to welcome Nathan officially to the commission. He was sworn in a couple weeks ago. I'm very excited for him to be here.
This is Amanda Lansing, chairwoman. Thank you, Angela. And yes, welcome, Nathan, to this very odd first meeting of yours, but we're really excited to have you. So the time is now 6:03 p.m. So I will officially call this meeting to order. Just again, to remind everybody, with the current COVID-19 regulations, our meetings are being held virtually, but the meetings are still being recorded. So anything that is said or anything that is chatted will become part of public record. First up on the agenda, on our new hearings, I will read this hearing in, but it is being continued to our next meeting. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, the Leominster Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on a notice of intent filed for the infill of the existing drive area and construction of a retaining wall. The work takes place in the buffer zone. Address is 213 Nashua Street, map 378, parcel 7. Unfortunately, there was an error in the legal advertising for this meeting, so we are going to continue this meeting this hearing to July 28th. That is actually the only new business we had for tonight. So we'll go down to our regular meeting and discussion on a vote for the COVID-19 processes for the commission. Angela, do we have any updates that we need for that? Sorry, Angela, if you can hear me, do we have any updates on our COVID-19 processes?
Hi, this is Angela. Sorry, I remuted myself by accident. So the votes that we had made for the digital and physical signatures by the agent, they were recorded at the Registry of Deeds. Also, the Registry of Deeds received their check, so that is all valid and ready to go. The next part of the COVID-19 update is that I did receive word that the Extension Permit Act has been lifted. So what that means is that basically the extension for the permits, they only go as far in they went into the state of emergency when the act was in place. There is an equation to tell how many additional days each extension permit would get if it had been expired during the COVID-19 process. And that's all for COVID-19 updates. Does the commission have any questions or comments?
This is Amanda. So Angela, for those extension permits, are we talking about like orders of conditions that maybe would have expired during when everything was shut down? Is that what that means?
Yes. So basically, if a permit was going to expire when the Emergency Act was in place, extending the ability for them to apply for an extension permit, then they get additional time depending on how many business days into state of emergency they were. There is an equation for it, and I did upload in the Google Drive, the slideshow that I had received from MACC, as well as some other informational documents and the actual physical equation for us. We do have an extension permit on the agenda tonight that I used for that.
Okay, great. Thank you for the clarification. Do any of our other commission members have any questions on that? Okay, moving on to policy. Angela, would you like to give a little explanation of what we're talking about here with a policy and guideline document?
Sure, this is Angela. So basically, I was looking into the other commissions and boards in the city, and they all have kind of like a policy document or a guidance requirement document for city council, for the planning board. They all have kind of like their rules that what they have to do during the meeting. For example, if they follow Robert's rule, who's in charge of what during the meeting. The scribe is in charge of taking the meeting minutes. The chair is in charge of leading the meeting. If there's a swing vote, it goes into all the details. This is the nitty-gritty of the commission, as well as it goes into like behavior policy, training policies, who's responsible to pay for trainings, as well as in some cases, should trainings be required or not required, which I'll leave up to the commission. And the city council obviously would have to approve that. So we did require the commission members to take training. Additionally, it would just kind of go over basically, what we need to do in order to be a commission, as well as how we should be behaving and performing as a commission.
This is Amanda again. Great. Before I kind of speak my piece, does anybody have or commission members have anything to say about that? Either agreeing with it, have concerns about it, questions, anything like that? Okay, so I will say I think I am in favor of that, one, because it helps keep us in line with what other commissions in the city are doing, and two, I think something like that would be very helpful as we are getting new commission members on board, especially if maybe they've never served on a city commission before. I think it would be really helpful to kind of just explain how the meetings work, who does what, et cetera. So for something like that, Angela, do we need to have a vote to come up with something like that, and then you would put something together to review, or how would that work?
Angela, so what I was going to propose is that I could, if the commission is on board, we can vote to allow me to draft a policy, and I can submit it, and then everyone can make their comments or changes or make suggestions, and then I will resubmit to the commission with everyone's comments, and then we can vote on it at the third meeting.
This is Amanda again. Okay, great. That sounds good. So given everything Angela just said and kind of the reasons behind doing this, do I have a vote to allow our agent to come up with a policy and guideline document in line with what other commissions in the city have, to sort of guide us through how we're supposed to be behaving and responsibilities? Do I have
This
a
is
motion?
Liz. Yeah, this is Liz. I'll make a motion to have Angela start with that document, and then we'll get a chance to look at it.
Great, thank you, Liz. Do I have a second?
This is Jeffrey Goin, and I will second that motion.
Great, thank you, Jeff.
All right, the rest of the vote will be taken by roll call. Nathan Fontaine, how do you vote?
Nathan Fontaine, yes.
Perfect. And Amanda Lansing, how do you vote?
I will vote yes.
All right, so the motion carries unanimously. So I'll submit that to everyone before the next meeting, and then you guys can review it. If you have any questions or comments, let me know.
Great, thank you, Angela. Moving on to certificate of compliance, we only have one on the agenda tonight. 368 Pierce Street, DEP file number 199975. I'm going to give everybody an update on that one, Angela.
Sure. So this project was, it's over on Pierce Street near where Jocelyn Street is. There is a wetland on either side. So there is a buffer zone area that kind of expands where the house is built. It's a single family home. There's a garage, a house. There was a pool. I went to the house to do my site visit. The pool was taken down. Looking at I have the original images from the erosion control site visit. Nothing additional has been altered. I did notice, though, when I was doing my research on the plan and double checking the special order of conditions, that the original order that had been recorded by the applicant did not include the special conditions attachment. He had just did the 9 pages of the order. There were special conditions included in the file that I have here, as well as the PDF I have on the computer. Quite honestly, I went to the site yesterday and I was finishing up my review today, and I discovered that today. So I'm unsure of how to approach that. The easiest way, in my opinion, would be to require them to, when they record the certificate of compliance, to record the entire order of conditions. The entirety of the special conditions underneath the section where you can do special conditions including. I believe Wes Schliss is on the call as well from Wetland Bingham to represent this project. But everything else, it was basically in compliance. The only thing missing was it does require the wetland placards be spaced 40 feet along the wetland line. Going on site, it isn't really doable for them. This is currently, as you can see, the wetlands are very vegetated. There's a lot of vining plants. They can't really reach any trees, and this isn't really their property line. The property line goes down more like down the grass line. Here, so everything vegetated, well established. I feel comfortable issuing a certificate of compliance as long as we have the perpetual conditions re-reported with a certificate, just to ensure that people are aware there were special conditions.
This is Amanda Lansing. Awesome, thank you, Angela. So the special conditions that you found, those were met. They just weren't recorded with the original order.
Angela Shabowski here. Yes, all of them were met except for the placards being hung 40 feet along the tree line, which I don't really think is doable along the wetland line, just because of all the vegetation there. There's a rock wall that goes down the line where the wetland is, and it is a steep slope. So I don't really see it as being a reasonable requirement. It is in the boilerplate, so I feel that because it was in the boilerplate, it just got added in. They didn't really review the boilerplate before adding the conditions on.
Okay, great. But everything is stable. Everything looks good. So I would agree with you. If it's not feasible, that's not really what we're most concerned with. Does anybody else on the commission have any questions or concerns related to this COC? Okay. In that case, I feel comfortable issuing this at the recommendation of our agent. So do I have a motion to issue a certificate of compliance for DEP file number 199975 with the condition that the special conditions page be recorded at the registry as well, just to make sure that all of the information is there?
Angela,
This is Elizabeth.
here.
Sorry,
Go ahead.
Angela.
Sorry, I just want to make sure it's okay with Mr. Fliss from Whitman and Bingham to record the special conditions under the certificate of compliance.
Oh, sure, absolutely.
I want to make sure that he agrees with that. That would be the best way to pursue this.
Yes, my apologies, Wes. If you're on, do you have anything that you'd like to add or any concerns with that approach?
No, we have no issues with that. That sounds reasonable.
All right. Thanks, Wes.
Great,
Thank
thank
you,
you,
Wes.
Wes, and thank you, Angela, for confirming that. Okay, so now do I have a motion to issue that certificate of compliance as long as the order of conditions page is also recorded?
This is Elizabeth. I'll make it. I just lost my train of thought. I'll make a motion to issue a certificate of compliance for 368 Pierce Street.
Great, do I have a second?
Nathan Fontaine, I'll second that motion.
Great, thank you, Nathan.
The rest of the vote will be done by roll call. Nathan Fontaine,
Yes.
and Amanda Lansing. How do you vote?
Yes.
Angela, this is Jeffrey Goyne. Nathan seconded the motion, so I need to vote.
I apologize. My phone had spaced out there. So let me try it again. Jeffrey Goyne, how do you vote?
I vote aye.
So the motion carries with everyone voting in favor. Would the commission like me to use the digital signatures that were approved at the prior meeting?
This is Amanda Lansing. I'm okay with that. If any of our commission members are not okay with that, let us know. Okay, I will take silence that everyone on the commission is okay with you using the digital signatures that were previously voted on.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to extension permits. We have one, DEP 1991044 Central Street in Leominster, the Brooks Pond Apartments.
Pull it up here. This is an older permit. It was filed for quite a while ago before I was an agent. For the Brooks Pond Apartments over on Central Street, 900 Central Street. There's riverfront area, 100-foot wetland zone. They installed a detention basin. Most of the work is complete on site. I do have some images. Most of the work is complete. It was issued in 2017, so it did expire over the time where we had the COVID-19 extension permit. So the extension permit will extend it for a little bit longer out than the actual April 12th. But I have no issues extending the permit. They're finishing up there. They still have a couple more things that they need to work on the project. But it's almost complete. All the buildings are done. I think they have a few more sidings they have to do, as well as the farming area that was proposed. They have a community garden area right next to the river. It's about 50 feet away. It has wetlands on the other side, about 30 feet, is completely vegetated, stabilized. The bridge is up to specs that they had submitted. And I have no problem no comments against issuing a suspension permit for the work for 3 years.
This is Amanda Lansing. Angela, how, just so the commission is aware, how long will this extend this permit for?
So typically the extension permit goes for 3 years from the date of issuance. I'm just pulling up my calculator here that I made for Mr. Hannigan. Yeah, so basically the end of the special order date plus the business days. So basically, if the permit expired on April 12th, if the commission chose to do a 3-year extension, it'd be 24 days out. So April 12th, 24 business days from that date would be their new extension permit date for the permit to expire. If they chose to do 3 years, or you guys can choose to do 1 year. Typically, I think 3 years would be effective, just as a lot of the work they do here, they do need to go through other departments for permitting, including planning board, building department. They have to sometimes pull the permit and then meet with them, and it can take, a month to get a permit in some cases, especially now with COVID-19 and all the other implications that that has on working inside buildings.
This is Amanda again. Okay, great. No, that sounds fine to me. I just was curious how that would work. So before we make a motion, does anybody on the commission have any questions or concerns related to this extension permit? Okay. In that case, do I have a motion to either issue an extension permit for 3 years, which is the recommendation of our agent, or a motion to extend the permit for just 1 year?
This is Elizabeth. I will make a motion to extend the permit for 3 years per the recommendation of our agent.
Great, thank you, Liz. Do I have a second for that motion?
This is Jeffrey Goin, and I'll second that motion.
Great, thank you, Jeff. Okay. Angela, do you want a roll call? I don't know what happened, so I will just ask. Nathan, how do you vote?
We vote aye.
And this is Amanda Lansing. I will also vote aye, so that motion will carry. And this permit will be extended for 3 years. Okay. Moving on. We have the Hill Street Conservation Land, which I believe, Angela, we are moving that to the next meeting. Oh, sorry, guys, we'll have to hold on 1 second. Our agent unfortunately lost the audio for her call, so we're gonna wait until she can get herself back on.
Hi there, this is Angela. I apologize. I lost the call.
No problem.
Okay. Sorry about that.
We just did the roll call for the extension permit with all 4 commission members voting to extend that for 3 years.
right, perfect. Thank you.
So next up would be Hill Street Conservation Land, and I believe, are we moving that to our next meeting?
Hi, this is Angela. Yes, I'm still, where we left it was that we had consulted with legal counsel and the other departments to see where we should go with this. Legal action would be required, or if the city should absorb the cost, as well as the assessment of the damage. Due to COVID-19, we're still working on getting out there to assess the extent of the damage into the watershed land, as well as into the different wetland areas on site. I'm still waiting for a response from our legal team on, if the city is going to pursue this against the person who has done it, or if they're going to maybe pursue it in a manner of just say, please help us fix it and do better in the future and work together. So as soon as I do hear back from them on that, I will update everyone. I do apologize. There's no other update at this time.
Okay, thank you, Angela. And just since we do have a new commission member on the call tonight, would you mind just giving a really brief explanation of kind of what happened over there and how agreeable the person you've been working with has been? Just so Nathan has all the information as we go forward with this.
Absolutely, Angela. So I had been on site hiking. Actually, there are hiking trails over off of Hill Street that are under the care of the Conservation Commission. It does contain watershed land, and in total, between the watershed land and the conservation land, it's over 111 acres. And a butter who is passionate about mountain biking saw the trails. He joined the trail stewards. He wanted to maintain the trails and do work up there and improve the area right down the road from his house. Obviously, it's an important place to him. Unfortunately, a lot of the work had been done in the watershed land. There had been there's an area here that had been dredged out and a bridge built over from a wetland spring area that leads down to a perennial stream and a farm pond that have been altered, as well as there have been numerous jumps built on the land in our care, which this parcel was purchased with very specific requirements that it would only be used for passive recreation. There would be no aggressive recreation or there'll be no aggressive recreation, motor vehicles, etc. on the property. Mountain biking is allowed, but when it crosses into the point where you're building jumps that go off rock edges, you're cutting down trees in the watershed, you're blocking off the historic trail to make jumps, it isn't exactly what this land was intended for. They had gone through, they named a couple of the trails, they were advertising it online. There was young children, 7-year-olds going up there. They had a tool shack up there that was labeled as Leominster Trail Stewards. And when I had found it, the saw had actually fallen. My son had run up the trail ahead of me, and the saw had fallen right next to him because none of this was secure. They're all hanging on nails. And this is a huge liability for the city, not only because of the jumps, but leaving tools up there. A lot of these jumps, they had, this one not here, but one of the other ones I saw actually has a 20-foot drop. And if you don't turn your handlebars the right way, you could go off a 20-foot drop. And all these trails were undocumented, and the commission, as well as the police station, recreation department, trail stewards, no one had known that these trails were being made. So they weren't made with the city's knowledge, and they weren't made to our standard, as well as they are in our watershed land. And a lot of these trails go to our reservoir off of Elm Street. So there was issues with erosion, the sloping wasn't correct. So we had to shut down the trails. Currently, they are not open to the public due to safety issues. A lot of the jumps are rotting. They're unsafe to step over. I've seen, my leg has gone through a couple of them when I was hiking up there to take pictures. And I did alert the police of the trail system that they had posted, as well as the trail system that they had been advertising through the mountain biking app, just so if someone does go up there and gets hurt, they know where the trails go so they can find them quicker. So currently, the gentleman who did it, he didn't do it maliciously. It wasn't done with the intent of, going above us. And he was doing it because he thought he truly had the right to, and he thought he was not breaking any rules. He was trying to provide an area for mountain bikers in the city, as the city doesn't really have any mountain bike trails. We have a bike store, we have Thompson Bike Shop in town, and we have the Leominster State Forest who coordinates with mountain bikers, but we don't actually have any mountain bike trails, even though there's a large need for them. We have a large population, so he thought he was doing something to better the community, but unfortunately he just didn't know what path or who to contact to do that. And so he did all the work within a year, and unfortunately the work just isn't done the right way. So the hope is that, you know, we can work with him and work with mountain bikers and the trail stewards to repair the trails that are too close and close them down, re-close them down. Some of the trails had been closed down before. They're near the watershed areas, clean up the trees and debris, take out the jumps, and create a safe hiking trail and a mountain bike trail maybe somewhere else in Leominster. We are waiting for the legal opinion if we can leave the jumps still. Last I spoke to KP Law, they didn't feel it was a good choice due to liability reasons. If somebody goes off the jump, goes the wrong way and drops 20 feet, they don't consider that passive recreation, and we're in violation of our grant, as well as we become liable for somebody, you know, falling down a 20-foot slope. So we are working on this currently amongst the planning board, the DPW, the trail stewards, the recreation department, KP Law, the mayor's office, and us.
This is Amanda Lansing again. Okay, awesome, Angela. I appreciate that, just so that we're all on the same page going forward. Moving on to some updates on some enforcement issues. 9 Penny Lane.
There, it's Angela. So at this time, we do not have an update on 9 Penny Lane. I did have a site visit as the 9 Penny Lane project relates to the Mary Ave project, as they're doing the wetland replication on that project lot. I did have a site visit out there with them, but due to the lot, the areas where the wetland was being mowed so many times, all the wetland flags have been damaged and moved. So Whitnam and Bingham and Mr. Morrow are going to be reflagging that area. I will be revisiting again with our peer reviewer as well as their peer reviewer, as well as reviewing the remediation site that they're proposing for the wetland. This will be hopefully have all this in place before the first meeting in August. I do need to re-advertise for the Mary Ave project and re-notify all the abutters, as we do not have enough members to vote on that project, as well as several others. So the projects that are missing will be either on the July 28th meeting or the first or second meeting in August coming up.
All right, great. Thank you, Angela. Does anybody have any questions about that? All right, so moving on to 248 Lincoln Street.
So at this time, I did speak with the homeowner's son just about, the commission had approved his plan proposing to remove the asphalt and to plant wildflowers as a vegetative buffer. I believe he has started the work. He hasn't completed it yet due to weather. So I do plan on going out there for a site visit. I do have it scheduled for Thursday just to check up on the progress. And I will give the commission a better update at the next meeting.
This is Amanda Lansing. Great, thank you for that, Angela. Any questions on that one? All right, moving right along to Hill Street and Elm Street.
So just to recap, at the last meeting, we had discussed the enforcement I had issued. The commission does need to vote to ratify that enforcement. And Nathan, I know you weren't here at the last meeting, but basically this site is on the corner of Hill and Elm Street. The property owner had filed for a permit back in 2007. But recently she had spoken to somebody who told her that the neighbors had moved their drainage pipes away from her property, pointing in a different direction. So she had been under the assumption that her property was no longer a wetland. So she had gone out and she cleared the entirety of the wetlands. They cleared the site. I was driving by and I caught it. This is the old plans that show where the wetland was. Here, color it in for everyone. The wetland area, and they had a proposed replication area as they were going to be doing a driveway crossing. Sorry, this is very small. Another issue with the site is that there's actually two lots. They each have their own filing, but currently when I spoke to the woman who owns lot number 2, where the brunt of the violation happened, she had told me that lot 1 had been taken in bankruptcy, but when you pull it up on the GIS and the assessing database, it does show it as being in a trust, the Mary Foley Trust, as well as when you look at the tax records, it looks the tax she has been paying the taxes. So I had done, under the assumption since Mary Foley had owned one lot, I assumed that she had owned both. I didn't realize it was in a trust. So one thing we need to do is we need to issue 2 separate enforcement orders, one for lot 1 and one for lot 2, as they have different owners, just for the filling of the wetland, because there was some alteration to the wetland in the upper portion of lot 1 as well. I met with Mary and the gentleman who had done the work for her, as well as I've spoken with her engineer. They, in my enforcement order, I said they had to restore the wetland before they could begin work or file for a notice of intent. And they had disagreed that they wanted to file for the notice of intent as well as the wetland restoration under one order. But I referred that to the state for the commission's recommendation to see if going that route would be better, or going the route of having them restore the wetland under the enforcement order, and then once the wetland is restored, then they can file for a notice of intent to build on the lot. And EP had also mentioned that, you know, we really should be re-evaluating whether or not a wetland crossing is necessary, if they have any other options. They had suggested a common law driveway in Leominster. They do not allow common law driveways, but it is something for the commission to keep in mind, just due to the nature of the property, that, you know, she had done this work so she could sell it and move on. And she even asked if she could sell it with an enforcement on the property. I wouldn't feel comfortable accepting a notice of intent to do all the work as one, as soon as they get the building up, they don't have to stay and replicate the wetlands. You know, it becomes somebody else's problem. You know, necessarily becomes the new homeowner's issue to make sure that that wetland area is replicated, as well as it's such a large area. You can see right here, the ones extend farther out, but it was such a large area of work and such a large area. They did put a riprap pad in of wetlands that does need to be restored. You can see the groundwater still coming up. That I would feel more comfortable having them restore the wetland first, and then go back and file for the notice of intent to build the house and develop the lot, just to ensure that we do get the wetland restored. I understand this isn't ideal for her or ideal for the builder, understandably, but it is, you know, it is important. Our job is to protect the wetlands. Our job is to ensure that wetland alteration does not happen without correct permitting, as well as I do think that they altered more than 5,000 square feet of wetlands. So that's another thing to keep in mind. It's a very large area that they had altered. And I feel if the commission allows this all to be done under one permit, we won't get the wetland system back the way it needs to be.
This is Amanda again. Angela, I'm sorry, I think you said at the beginning, but if you wouldn't mind reminding me, did we, at the last meeting and the meeting before, did we vote to issue the enforcement order for this yet?
No, you had asked me to check in with DEP and see if, you know, how they felt about what they thought, if it would be better to do it under the notice of intent or if it would be doable to have them do the wetland replication under the enforcement order and then file the notice of intent after the wetland replication is in place. I believe it's on your screen, the notice of non-compliance I had sent. And this is what I had put in for the enforcement order that I had issued. Moving to return to compliance, you're requested to do the following: cease and desist all activity that affects the resource area and buffer zone. They have done that. Stabilize the soil to limit runoff, and erosion controls are suggested. There wasn't really a need for erosion controls. There wasn't a lot going in. There wasn't a lot of. There was a little bit of a divot right where the asphalt is for the road, so a lot of the water and sediment was building up there. Removing the trucks from the wetland resource area, which they have done, and develop a plan for the removal and restoration of the resource area to the original state. I have not received that, as they would prefer to go the notice of intent route for the entire project. And then apply for a permit for the remainder of the work in the resource area and buffer zone that they'd like to keep. And they did attend the regular scheduled Conservation Commission meeting that we had on April 28th. Some of the other images from discover the site.
So I guess what is, I want to make sure that myself and everyone else understands. So kind of, I guess, what's our next step here?
So the next step so I only issue an enforcement order when it's a major enforcement that needs to be stopped. I typically like to wait and let you guys issue the enforcement order instead of ratifying it. So I have issued an enforcement order. Now the commission can vote to ratify it, and they can amend it, and they can make their own requirements of the homeowner or property owner. So now the commission would decide whether or not they would like to either A, go with the exact enforcement order I had suggested, or B, come up with something on their own.
This is Amanda again. Okay, great, thank you. Before we go ahead and do that, does anybody else on the commission have any questions, concerns, comments, opinions having to do with this enforcement? Okay, in that case, I will open it up to anybody else who might be on the call who would like to speak about this project. If you would like to speak, please just state your name for the record.
Right. I'm just unmuting everyone. 1 second here. I apologize. It's not letting me unmute you all. Hold on. For some reason, it's not allowing me to unmute anyone. Let me see here. Nathan, I just sent you an unmute request. Please let me know if you receive it.
Yes, I received it.
Okay. All right, so it looks like there's no one else on the call. There's Dorothy. All right, so it doesn't seem that anyone else would like to speak on it.
Great, thank you, Angela. Yeah, I guess I'll just kind of state my opinion before I call for a motion either way. With this being such a huge area, I am in agreement that I think it needs to be restored and replicated before anything else is done. So my personal opinion would be the route that our agent has suggested of proceeding with the restoration and then filing a notice of intent for whatever work they would like to do on that lot, because it's a very, very large area as far as wetland is concerned. So just so that I kind of get this language right, Angela, it's your recommendation was do they need to file a notice of intent to do the restoration and then also a notice of intent for the work, or is the restoration just done under the enforcement order?
Angela here. So correct. So the restoration and repair of the wetland would be done under the enforcement order. With enforcement orders, it is really important for the commission to be very specific as to what they want from the other party. If they want, a wetland scientist to do monitoring and submit monitoring reports, as well as the timeline is really important for us to set, as well as anything that you guys want submitted to you. Typically, in the past, when doing a wetland restoration, even in our boilerplate, we do have requirements for, a plan will be submitted and approved by the commission for the restoration, as well as we'd have conditions of somebody would be monitoring it and submitting reports to the commission in the spring, just to show that, there is growth or there isn't growth. And then however long the commission would like to wait before they allow them to file the notice of intent to build on the lot. I believe should be in this as well, just to give them a timeline. Typically, the commission does require 2 growing seasons for a wetland replication to show 75% of growth and stabilization, as well as wetland scientist report and basically a report and plan submitted to the commission of how they're going to restore the wetlands, which would be approved by the commission.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. So given all of that information, I guess we have a couple of options before us. The first would be a motion to allow the applicant to do restoration and construction on the property under the same notice of intent. The second option would be a motion to request that the applicant do the required restoration under the enforcement order and then submit a notice of intent for construction on the property once the replication area is completed. Whomever decides to call for a motion, if you do motion to have restoration done under the enforcement order, as our agent suggested, if you could just be clear in what it is you would like, and then any of our other commission members are welcome to, to add on to that if they would like to vote the same way.
If I may.
Sure.
So whoever makes the motion after the first motion is made, the commission, the chair can open it up for discussion. So we can discuss the timeline with whatever motion you guys decide to go with. I would recommend that just so we can make sure that you guys give me all the details that I need in order to fill out the enforcement order.
Okay, great. Thank you. I was wondering if that was something that we could do, so I'm glad that you brought that up.
Sure.
So then I would say to start with, do I have a motion to either allow everything to proceed under the same notice of intent, or a motion to request that the replication be done under the enforcement order and then a notice of intent be submitted for the additional work they want to do on those lots.
This is Elizabeth. I will make a motion to have the restoration done under the enforcement order, and then have the owner submit an application for NOI.
Okay, great. Thank you, Elizabeth. And as our agent informed me, we can now, with that motion, we can discuss if we vote with that motion, what we would like included in that. So under the enforcement, I would agree that we need to discuss whether we want a wetland scientist to replicate or to monitor those areas. I would say with it being such a big area, and from my own experience, that is a really good idea, because if wetland replication is not done in the right way, it can fail very easily. That would be my suggestion, is that we require that, and we require reporting on those monitoring efforts. Additionally, I would like to see a plan. I think it's important that we show, even if it's 2 plans of where the wetland was, what was filled in, and where they plan to replicate based on what they want to do on that lot eventually. We'll want as accurate square footage as we can get of how much wetland area was actually disturbed, and so that we know exactly what they need to replicate. Those are a couple of the things that I feel very strongly are necessary. But I would like to open it up to anybody else on the commission. If you agree with that, if you have additional suggestions, please speak up.
This is Elizabeth. If we had a wetland scientist, would we still require the 2 growing seasons, or maybe because it's being monitored so closely, we could change that? I'm assuming though that it does start to look like the replication is taken.
Angela Teresi here. That's something we can, the commission can most definitely put in there, that they only want 1 growing season with a report that the wetland replication is established before the NOI can be filed. So that's something that can most definitely be done.
Okay, so we would want to decide, this is Amanda Lansing, we would want to decide, 1, how much, if we wanted just 1 growing season or 2, and we would also want to decide how often we would like documents submitted to us. Do we want it twice a year? Do we want it checked quarterly, etc.? So does anybody have any opinions on that, as far as when you'd like to see things, or how many growing seasons?
This is Jeffrey Goyne here, and I also I like the idea of a single growing season if we can stipulate that. Definitely want to see some plans, and we want a wetland scientist on board to monitor it.
I apologize. I keep disconnecting. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I will say that if we're going to do a single growing season instead of 2, I would want to see, we'd want reports quarterly rather than 2 a year, just to make sure that it is taking, just a little more information in a shorter period of time.
Great. Thank you, Jeff. This is Amanda. Angela, in regards to that, just because I want to make sure that we all kind of fully understand, if we were to say we would require one growing season, if we put in the language that says we would require one growing season and or 75% coverage, if that wetland area fails or if it doesn't grow back the way that it should, would we have the ability to extend that, or how would that work?
So this is Angela, the conservation agent. So no, so basically if they meet the enforcement order requirements that the commission puts in place, then they have met the requirements. So that's why we have to be really careful about what we ask of them. So if you guys wanted to do the one growing season, I would say, over one growing season with an established 75% established revegetation, as well as continued monitoring. Maybe you could put continued monitoring for a secondary growing season. That's one way to do it. I've had I know the 2 growing seasons, everyone thinks that means 2 years after you plant it, so it'd be 3 years. I've had projects where they've planted in spring, and then they planted it before spring in 2019, and that counts as one growing season. And then the next growing season, spring 2020, that's their 2 growing seasons. So it's really it's depending on when they do the planting. It doesn't necessarily mean 3 years or 2 years. It can, if it's depending on when they do it, can mean 1 year. Another way around that would be for the commission to require. They can say, yes, one growing season before the notice of intent will be filed for the remainder of the work. But after that, they would require reports for the second growing season as well, just to maintain that during construction of the home, that the wetland replication area does not become compromised. If that makes sense.
This is Elizabeth. Yeah, that actually is kind of what I was trying to get at. But yes, that would work for me.
Okay, this is Amanda. Jeff or Nathan, do you have any comments on the recommendation, like the options our agent just gave us?
This is Jeffrey going, and I'll echo Elizabeth saying that that kind of stipulation I'm a fan of as well.
My phone kept breaking out, so I don't know if the commission had discussed a timeline of when they want the wetland restoration plan, as well as when they want the wetland restoration to be completed by.
This is Amanda. Thank you. No, all we had confirmed so far was that if we go with the single growing season, that we would want. Jeff had requested possibly quarterly monitoring, rather than biannually.
Okay, that's why I'm just writing down notes as we go, so I can give you guys a summary of what the enforcement would say at the end of our discussion.
Great, thank you. So we want to stipulate a timeline where they would give us the wetland restoration plan, and then when we would want the restoration completed by. Is that what you said?
Yes, that would be ideal, just so that we have a timeline, so that if they don't do A, B, and C by October 1st, we can refer to the state for assistance with the enforcement. We don't have the ability in Leominster to issue fines, but the state does, and so sometimes we do have to reach out to the state for assistance with enforcement issues.
Okay, so I guess the timeline of when we would want that restoration plan, I mean, might fully depend on when they can actually. Well, it may not, right? Because they may not plant till the spring. Like at this point, I'm not sure how well it would do for them to try to plant this year, or to try to do the restoration, you know, going into the fall.
Angela here. Yeah, so we're in a level 2 drought currently. Right now it's been raining every day, which is lovely for us. But so plantings, I would, you know, typically they'd happen in the fall or the spring. They can happen in other times of the year. Is doable. It just requires more work and sometimes some more replacement. Typically in prior enforcement orders, the commission would give them, you know, 30 days to have a wetland restoration plan submitted to the commission, and the commission can review it and approve it or make, you know, additional comments or requirements. You know, for example, if they don't want purple fescue, you know, purple grass, they want green, you know, they want different species in there, or they want the elevations to be different or more area, that's something we can discuss with them. So that would be the first step, would be to establish a date to have the plan by, and then, you know, the wetland restoration could be completed by, you know, we could say 2 growing seasons, so that we could say in 2020, you know, we could say by July, the wetland restoration would be completed by July 2021, with continued monitoring until July 2022.
So that would be if we went with the 2 growing seasons.
Yes, sorry, yes, but it's the 2 growing seasons. If the commission wanted to go with the singular, you know, the 1 growing season before the filing of the notice of intent, the commission could put in, you know, the, the notice of intent cannot be applied for until at least 1 growing season for the wetland restoration and 75% growth, as well as monitoring reports from whoever's monitoring a wetland scientist or a company, suggesting that the wetland area is functioning well and becoming established. But I would say, you know, you do want a date for the entire wetland restoration to be completed by. So, you know, I would give it, you know, and let them do the NOI after the first growing season, but I would recommend stating that you know, by, you know, July 2023, the wetlands will be completely restored.
Okay. I think I understand now. We could give them, we could say we want 2 growing seasons for the restoration to be fully complete, but after 1 growing season, as long as it's showing it's, you know, it's established, they could apply for the NOI.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I just wanted to make sure that I myself understood what we were kind of saying. So as
so
yeah. Okay. So I believe that was the again, Jeff and Liz, could you remind me, is that was the way that you guys were leaning, wanting to go, correct?
This is Liz. That's correct.
Great, thank you.
This is Jeffrey going. That is correct.
Okay. And Nathan, do you have any comments? Does that approach sound good to you?
Yeah, that approach sounds good to me.
Okay, so I guess lastly, we would want a timeline for the restoration plan. So if we're going with about the 30-day mark, we could either request that we have that plan by our August, let's see, I would say by our August 25th, or sorry, August 18th meeting, which is our second meeting in August, or our first meeting in September, which is September 8th.
Hey, Angela here. So in August, our first meeting would be August 11th, and the second meeting would be August 25th.
Oh, sorry, no, I was looking at the calendar wrong. So I said it right this time. Okay. So either our August 25th meeting or our September 8th meeting. Does anybody have any strong feelings one way or another? Do we want to give them a little bit of extra time? What do we think?
This is Jeffrey Goyne. Is this just a kind of a when we want it by, but they can submit it early if they get it done early kind of thing?
Just Betsy here. Yes, I do know that she has hired Hannigan Engineering because they were going to do the notice of intent and the restoration plan under one. So it is already underway. So we could get it earlier. This is kind of just like this is the deadline. Like it needs to be in before the August 25th meeting. So I'd need to receive it at least the August 20th at the latest in order to put it on the agenda. But they can most definitely submit it earlier if it's ready earlier. And then they'd be able to, start planting basically as long as the commission votes to approve it. They can start planting that night.
I mean, if they can submit early and it's ready early, there's no reason not to give them until the 8th of September, just as a why not.
This is Amanda. Yeah, Jeff, I agree with you as well. I think if we give them more time, that's good, just if they need it. And if they really want to get going on it and they can get it to us earlier so they can get started earlier, I think I would echo that as well.
And just here in the past, we've had situations where something came up, somebody's family member passed away, or they just got overwhelmed and they weren't able to get the restoration plan to us on time. And the commission can always choose to, oh yeah, we'll extend it, to the next meeting, or we'll extend it to, we'll extend it to 2 meetings. It's not set in stone. The commission can always say, okay, we understand the situation. Life happens. We're all human beings. So it's not, but that's. We look at the date as the date that we really would like it by. So.
This is Amanda. Yeah, no, that makes total sense, Angela. So I still feel I would be comfortable with September 8th. And then if something happens and that still is not enough time, as long as we are given notice and just sort of some reasoning and we all agree that it's okay to push it back, that's fine, because ultimately it's kind of if the applicant would like to get it done sooner rather than later. So I would be okay with saying September 8th, and then if for some reason that's not enough time, we just need notice as to why that's not enough time. If Liz or Nathan, if you guys disagree with that, please let me know. If you do agree, you're welcome to also say that you agree, but you don't have to.
And I did put up on the screen the wetland replication portion of our order of conditions, typically for when we need to have wetland replication areas. Just so the commission is aware if there's anything in there that they would also like to add.
Okay. I think based on the discussion that we've had, Angela, I think we've covered everything. Would you mind kind of just reading back the summary so that if there's anything else the commission would like to add, we're all just on the same page, because I know it's a lot of information.
Absolutely. All right, so the applicant would be required to submit a wetland replication plan by September 8th, including the complete area disturbed, as well as the proposed replication of the entirety of the wetland. During the wetland replication they will submit to the commission quarterly monitoring reports. It will be monitored by a wetland scientist or wetland professional, I should say. And then after the first growing season, if the monitoring reports and the wetland scientists say that we have 75% of the area established, they may file for the notice of intent for the rest of the work. But continued monitoring would happen throughout the second growing season. Would we decide that a date that we wanted this completely completed by? Would it be September? I know we're requiring the plan by September 8th. If they started work, that week, say September 12th. Did you guys want to do it be completed by September 12th, 2022 or 21? We can always extend it further if they need more time for whatever reason.
This is Amanda. My opinion would be for now is to say, so if we're saying we want the plan in September of 2020, is that replication would hopefully be done by September of 2022. That's 2 full growing seasons. And if something should happen, and we need to push that or whatever, we can sort of deal with that as it comes. That's my own personal opinion. I'm not a huge fan of pushing the timeline out a ton because I've seen that also just not work in our favor sometimes. So I would say, yeah, so we want the plan by September 8th. So I would say September 8th, 2022. Does anybody have any strong opinions either way on that? Okay, I will take silence as being agreeable to that September 22 timeline to have the restoration complete by.
All right, so the wetland restoration will be completed by September 8th, 2022, with a wetland report stating that is completed and there's no other requirements. In addition, just because this lot is being built to sell on, would the commission want to add, if the lot is sold, that they receive an affidavit stating that the new owner is aware of the enforcement order and the responsibilities for the wetland replication area, just because of the house is built before the growing season is over?
Angela, I would like that to be included.
This is Amanda. Yes, Jeff, I agree with that. I know myself personally, and I think Liz being on the commission for a while, we have seen what happens when a homeowner unwilling, buys a property that has some issues that they were not aware of. So I would also like to see that included, because I don't think that it's fair that someone take on this responsibility, not knowing that they're taking on this responsibility.
All right, so the commission is requiring that the wetland restoration plan will be submitted by September 8th. That plan will include work that, how much of the area was disturbed originally, and the proposed methods and proposed restoration of the area. Monitoring will be done quarterly, and a wetland professional will submit quarterly reports to the commission. If after one growing season, 75% of the wetland is established, and with a letter from the wetland scientist stating so, the notice of intent can be filed for the building. The wetland replication will be completed by September 8th, 2022. And if the property is sold, an affidavit will be submitted to the commission from the purchaser stating that they understand the responsibility to the enforcement order and the restoration if it's sold before the wetland is completed. Did I miss anything?
This is Amanda. I don't think so. Nathan, Jeff, or Liz, was there anything else that you wanted to add or anything you think we missed?
This is Liz. I'm all set.
Okay, so in that case, I think we need to
Amend the motion. I'm sorry, we need to amend the motion as well as and then ratify the order with the amendment.
Okay. So the original motion was to have the wetland replication done under the enforcement order.
Correct.
So what do we have to amend with that? I just want to make sure I get the language correct.
Of course. So since Elizabeth made the motion, the motion was to do the wetland replication under the enforcement order and then apply for the notice of intent for the building after it's established with the conditions that the commission had just discussed that the agent read in. Unless you guys want to list them all out again.
I don't think that is necessary. Okay, so Elizabeth made the original motion to have the replication area done under the enforcement order. So we're going to amend that original motion to include all of the details that our agent just listed out that will be included in the enforcement. So I have to call for a new motion.
Well, you just did it. So now we are just looking for a second.
Okay, thank you. Sorry. It's a little confusing sometimes. So I appreciate you explaining it.
All right, it's a lot.
Okay, so do I have a second for that amended motion?
I'll second Nathan Fontaine. I'll second that motion.
Great, thank you, Nathan.
And the rest of the vote will be done by roll call. I'm just writing this down, who voted what. Jeffrey Goyne, how do you vote?
I vote aye.
And Amanda Lansing, how do you vote?
I will also vote aye.
Okay, so the motion carries. I don't remember if it was stated in the original motion, but this would be two separate enforcement orders for one for each lot.
No, it was not stated in the original motion.
Right, I did not know.
Would you guys like to do it again? Sorry.
No, that's okay. I think it's better that we do. So it would be an amendment to the original motion that we issue the wetland replication be done under the enforcement with all of the detail that was discussed and that our agent read back to us, and would also include that this enforcement would be issued to each individual lot.
Correct.
So do I have a second for that amended motion? No, I appreciate you bringing that up because I didn't, I forgot about that. So do I have a second for that amended motion that includes that this will go to both lots?
This is Jeffrey Goin, and I will second that motion.
So the rest of the vote will be taken by, sorry. The rest of the vote will be taken by roll call. Nathan Fontaine, how do you vote?
Nathan Fontaine, I vote aye.
And Amanda Lansing, how do you vote?
I vote aye.
So the motion carries. 2 enforcement orders, 1 for each lot, will be sent to the respective owners with the conditions that we had just discussed. The wetland replication plans will be submitted by September 8th, and the wetland restoration will be completed by September 8th, 2022, with all the requirements that we had discussed.
This is Amanda. Great. Thank you, Angela, for walking us through the complexity of that one. I appreciate it, and you know, it is important that we are all on the same page, and that we have a public record that is fully detailing everything that we want. So, to the rest of the commission, also thank you for your patience as we got through that one. So our last enforcement is 80 Scenic Drive.
Hi, this is Angela Schwartz, the conservation agent, once again. So I had received notification from one of the inspectors that some trees have been taken down in the area of, it's called Road, it's spelled like Realt, RHEALT Road and Scenic Drive. So I took a drive over. I talked to a couple different homeowners. I located the property where the trees have been taken down. There is an intermittent stream and some vegetated wetland around the stream. It does go into a culvert and travel farther down. The pictures are showing. So this is the site. The homeowner is at 80 Scenic Drive. It's Mr. Hoyle. He was unaware. Unfortunately, he was unaware that about the stream and the regulations, and that he needed to get approval before taking the trees down. I left him a note after I visited the site. No one had been home. And so then I met with him a couple days later. We walked the site together. He explained what had happened. I took a look at the tree stumps. A lot of the trees that had been taken down, there was several, sorry, these are new pictures. A lot of the trees that had been taken down, they were large, they were dead, or they had damage to them from storms or animals. A lot of them were rotted out in the middle. They would have been something that the commission would have allowed him to take down and stump as he had done. All the work was in the buffer zone. There was nothing done in the stream. So I discussed with him on site. He does have some stormwater issues in this area that's right here. There is some vegetation there, but when you look at the orthos historically, it doesn't exactly represent a wetland. It's higher up. But he does get a lot of water on this area. He is lower than his neighboring property, and the neighboring property has a very obvious wetland parallel set. So a lot of the water kind of discharges down that way and then slowly goes to the stream. But it does flood. So I discussed with him that planting here would be ideal to assist with the stormwater issue, would restore the buffer zone. And originally I was going to issue an enforcement order. But after evaluating the site, looking at the history of the site, looking through old files, I couldn't find any evidence stating that this area was a wetland or buffer zone. And just looking at the site, I felt it was, this is a house that was built, 20 years ago. Looking where the fence line is, where it hasn't moved, the grading, different elevations on the site, I don't believe this area was a wetland. I spoke to the homeowner yesterday, and he completed all these native plantings in the area to restore the area and to replace, there's some trees he had planted to replace the trees he did take down. He plants, I have the whole list here. I'm sorry, my computer is slower than I'd ever enjoy. He did give me a list of all the plantings. I'm just pulling them up right now. So he had planted 2 apple trees, ostrich ferns, dogwoods, black lace elderberry, milkweed, 3 dwarf rhododendrons, zebra grass, lemongrass, arrowwood, windflower, smooth oxeye, purple fontaine grass, bay lily, and Russian sage. I had also recommended that he have mosquito control come out and look because the stream bed was filled with debris. Just as people have their compost piles and debris washes in, just over time, it really needs to be cleared out, as well as because of the stormwater issues he had on the site. He did have a basically a catch basin dry well installed, and then the pipe discharges into the stream. It is an intermittent stream, more so than it's not a perennial stream. There isn't a ton of, I want to say there's not a ton of wetland. There's a lot of wetland on the other side of the stream, not so much on his side. So there wasn't major damage to anything, but the way the pipe is, it doesn't look like it's installed correctly or working correctly. So I did suggest that he would file a retroactive RDA for that. And I've volunteered to help him with filling it out. It is a very overwhelming document. And so for the that would just be for the storm, and then the maintenance on being able to take weeds out of the area, raking it out, and taking care of that. Due to the fact that he's been so cooperative, he basically ran out. I met with him 2 weeks ago. He did all this work, plantings, all the restoration work. He took to heart everything I said about protecting the wetland. He's very apologetic for the minor, truly the minor violation he committed. I really think he's restored most of the buffer zone areas, doing well. So I think he agreed to file the RDA. He just needs a little help doing it. I think the commission should just go over with an informal enforcement of this and work with his cooperation. As he's been so cooperative, I don't think it's necessary to go, and sending out an official enforcement order.
This is Amanda. Yeah, thank you for that, Angela. I would agree. It sounds like he really is trying to do the right thing and didn't mean to do, the wrong thing. So I agree. I don't think an official enforcement order is necessary, especially if he has already started, kind of doing the things that you had suggested.
Yeah, very quickly, I might add.
Yeah. Does anybody else on the commission have any concerns or anything to say about this one? Okay, so if we are not going to issue an enforcement order, Angela, do we have to do anything from a voting or legal standpoint, or just kind of say we're okay with him working with you?
I would take a vote, just if the commission votes to allow us to continue with voluntary enforcement. The commission in agreement with that. Mr. Hoyle, I did unmute you if you had anything that you wanted to say. I see you're on the call. I apologize it's taken so long to get to you.
I didn't really have anything to add. I appreciate the thorough overview and just await your guys' decision. Appreciate it.
So if the commission wants to vote to continue this under the voluntary enforcement, and go over the RDA for the drainage he has on his property, just with the water issues, or if they'd like to do something else, we can open up for discussion.
Okay, this is Amanda. Yeah, that particular approach is fine with me. I would be okay with going forward with the voluntary enforcement and having our agent just help with that retroactive RDA for the water issues. Does anyone have anything else to add? Any other discussion to add before I call for a motion either way? Okay, in that case, so there's two options. The first is a motion to issue an enforcement order. The second is to allow the work to be done under the voluntary enforcement and having that retroactive RDA submitted for the water issues. Do I have a motion for either one of those options?
This is Jeffrey going, and I'll make a motion that we allow the voluntary enforcement to continue and a retroactive RDA to be filed in the future.
Thank you very much, Jeffrey.
Thanks, Jeff. Do I have a second for that motion?
This is Nathan Fontaine, and I'll second that motion.
Great, thank you, Nathan.
All right, the rest of the vote will be done by roll call. Excuse me, Elizabeth Reese Blair, how do you vote?
I vote aye.
And Amanda Lansing, how do you vote?
I vote aye.
The motion carries. We will continue with voluntary enforcement, and we'll begin working on the RDA with the homeowner.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you, you too. All right, we're getting there, guys. Emergency certifications. Angela, do we have any updates on that that eroded bank? Or I think that was the one that we had all set, right? It just
So Angela, here, this is the Cpw permit where they had the eroded banking. Just plant pictures. They did start the work. One up here. So this is what it looks like the day they had gone out there to start taking down the trees and removing the debris. More trees had fallen into the area, into the stream. So they started taking down the trees, removing the debris. I'm going out there on Friday for another inspection to review, see how far it's gone, see if any additional erosion controls are necessary, and to see if the riprap placement is working to catch a lot of that erosion that's flying in from the culvert. So I'll have another update for the next meeting, but they have been working really hard at remediating that area and stopping the erosion of the bank.
This is Amanda Lansing again. Awesome, thank you, Angela. Does anybody on the commission have any questions about that one? Okay. I guess moving on, budget. Any updates on where we stand there?
This is Angela here. We are starting fiscal year 2021. So we are just the beginning of that. The budget was approved. I'm working on the encumbrance for the prior bills from fiscal year 20 in June that came up. There's only 3 or 4 bills I am waiting to receive before I can finish my encumbrance. So that should be done by the end of the week. Other than that, there is no other updates.
Great, thank you, Angela. So that concludes our business for this evening. Our next meeting will be Tuesday, July 28th, and the deadline was this past Friday, July 10th for that meeting. Do I have a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting?
Amanda, if I may, just before we close the meeting, everyone goes home again. Angela here, I just want to remind everyone, I did send out an email just asking for everyone's updated address and phone number. The city does pay for a membership to MACC, the Massachusetts Association of Conservation Commissioners. I need to finish updating our roster so that I can submit it, and then you all will receive cards cards as well as access to their e-library resources and trainings. They'll send you emails with all different sorts of information, different trainings that are available. The city does cover the cost for training, so you know, take them. It's, you know, they're free to you guys. They benefit you. They benefit the commission. And it's a really great organization. They have tons of resources and forums for any issues or any questions that you have or that I have. I rely really heavily on them for most of my training when I first started here. Even still, I spend a lot of my time perusing and getting information from them. So just if everyone could just, you know, when you get a chance, just make sure that you sent me your information, your phone number, your address, and the best email you'd like me to use. I did set everyone up with city emails. I know a few people are having issues with accessing them, but just send me an email and I can set you up with our new IT company to hopefully fix those issues. That was all. Sorry.
This is Amanda. No, thank you, Angela. We all appreciate that reminder for sure. I will, if any of our commissioners have not taken any MACC trainings, I have taken several of them myself, and they're really great. A lot of them are like foundation courses to really get you that sort of base knowledge that helps understand a lot of these projects. So I would also highly recommend taking advantage of that. So with that, do I now have a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting?
This is Liz. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Cool. Thanks, Liz. Do I have a second?
This is Nathan. I'll second that motion.
All right. The rest of the vote will be taken by roll call. Jeffrey Goyne, how do you vote?
I vote aye.
Amanda Lansing, how do you vote?
I will vote aye.
All right. The meeting
Awesome.
is adjourned at 7:37 p.m. Have a great night, guys.
Great. Thanks
Thank
for
you.
your time tonight, guys.
Thanks, you too.
Have a good one.
Bye, thanks.
Bye.